good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition, no matter what that condition is, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you do have a voice, you have a community, you are never, ever, ever alone. Now, here on Invisible Condition, we also know that life can be tough sometimes. We get it. It's tough. My life's tough. Your life's tough. It can be really hard with an invisible condition. We also know that there is always hope. So that's where we operate. That's where we hang out in hope. That's where we like to live. So join us. It's kind of nice here. Hope is cool. So I want to talk about a couple things before we bring our amazing guest on today. Number one, I want to talk to you about our nonprofit arm of Invisible Condition, and that is called Hydro with Hope. Hydro with Hope is a nonprofit that we established a couple years ago. It's almost 3 years ago now, 2022. It's been 3 years. Good Lord. Time flies when you're having fun. Hydro with Hope is there to help people with the condition I was born with, which is called hydrocephalus. And that is loosely translated water on the brain. People with hydrocephalus have had quite of a very interesting life, typically, because the one thing that is inevitable with hydrocephalus is brain surgery. I had my first brain surgery at 2 weeks old. I've had 7 total, and 4 of those has been in the last 10 years, but you would never know it because it's invisible. We have a whole unique set of challenges that we get to deal with on a daily basis, and not to mention the looming possibility of surgery, right? So we at Hydro with Hope want to help families with that and be there for them to support them with resources. And some of the resources we have are pretty awesome. And also, we love to speak. We love to talk about hope. And so we get out around the country and tell stories of hope to make sure that somebody with hydrocephalus doesn't think that their life is over, because it's just beginning. Brain surgery is not the end. It's just the beginning. And so we are at a place now where we have more that we need to get accomplished than we have funding to be able to accomplish that. And so we are actively seeking board members to our board to expand that a little bit so that we can get more accomplished and get more done that we feel like we are being called to do. So if you know of anybody that might be a good candidate for that, or would like to talk to me about that, or anything fundraising wise with Hydro with Hope, please send me an email at InvisibleCondition@e360tv.com. Same email if you want to advertise on the show. I would love to talk to you. We have an amazing platform here, and we have lots and lots of people watching, and I would love to have you get the word out about your amazing product or service with us. So again, Invisible Condition at e360tv.com, and let's set up a call and talk about it. So, all right, that is enough of that. Let's go talk to our guest, whose name is Kandas Rodarte. Man, I almost butchered it again. And she said, I said, how do you pronounce that? She said, well, Rodarte. I said, well, what about Rodarte? Because you said she said, whatever, either way. So it's Kandas. We're going to talk to Kandas today. She's been living with metastatic breast cancer for over 10 years, which is a long time for that. As a productivity coach and host of the Gratitude Geek Podcast. God, I love that name. Kandas is a champion for resilience, community building, and inspired action, all rooted in the transformative power of gratitude. I love that. Gratitude's the best. So we're going to talk to Kandas right now and see what the heck she's up to. Kandas, thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a blast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. First things first, I have a question for you that I like to ask everybody. There's no wrong answer. And everybody that's answered it so far has done amazing. So I have no doubt that you will. In the crazy times, in the rough times, in the painful times, there's always up and down times with invisible conditions. In those down times, how do you still maintain hope?
Oh, wow. So first of all, it's okay to have periods where you feel hopeless. That's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stubborn. And I don't know if I've ever felt hopeless.
Good. That's a good thing. Okay. I love that answer.
I don't think I can answer that question because I don't think I ever have felt that in those. I mean, everybody has their downtimes. I mean, there was this one time I was having a really bad day and my husband was giving me a bad time about being in a bad mood. And I just looked at him and said, I have cancer and it's okay for me to be in a bad mood every once in a while. I literally said that to him because there's this expectation because I'm always in a good mood that I'm always going to be in a good mood. Well, I can have a bad day too. And it's okay. Just the thing is, don't stew in it.
Right.
Don't always be in a bad mood. Have your bad moment. You can I think that the statistic is 8 minutes. You can give yourself 8 minutes and then be done with it. Move on. I don't know where I got that number, but I got that number from something.
Well, I mean, it had to be true if you found it in print somewhere, right? So it's gotta.
Oh yeah, gotta be true. If I found it on the internet, it's probably true.
You found it on the internet, it's gotta be true. That's right. That's right. Good answer. See, I told you there's a good answer for that. Okay. Well, let's dive in here. What take us back to the moment that you got the diagnosis and just kind of how did it all start? What was that like?
So a lot of women, like it's 1 in 5 women in the United States get breast cancer. So it's a pretty common occurrence. Mm-hmm. Chances are if you're in a room and there's 20 people in the room, 5 of them have had breast cancer, or 5 women.
Yep.
And so that part of the story is the same as everybody else's, right? You find a lump, you go and have a mammogram, they find something that's concerning, you have a biopsy. Next thing you know, you're hooked up to all these machines and you're getting all this treatment and they, maybe you're going through radiation and all. I did all that, right? So after everything was over, and this is the part that's going to be a little deflating and disheartening. After it was all over, I went to have my PET scan to determine that everything was fine. And my radiologist, the woman who had been in charge of the radiation therapy, my radiologist told me that the scan was clear. When I went into my oncologist told me that there was something on my lung. So he identified something that the radiologist missed. And so we had the lung biopsied, and it was a 2 millimeter. 2 millimeters is less than half an inch. It was a 2 millimeter, very hot spot in my lung. So I go in to have it biopsied, and the intervention radiologist, his name was Dr. Fang. At this point, Dr. Fang and I knew each other because I had been to see him quite a few times for other things that intervention radiologists do.
Sure.
And he says to me, this is a very delicate procedure. I'm going to have to go through both lobes of your lung to get to the spot. And it's, it's going to take some time. It's probably going to be very painful. And I said, if I was your wife, what would you do? And he said, I would biopsy it. And I said, okay, let's biopsy it. Yeah. And so 45 minutes later, after receiving a lot of really good drugs that kept me out of pain for most of it, although I did kick him once because I was awake for the whole thing because during this lung biopsy, I had to breathe.
Sure.
The reason why he couldn't put me out was because I had to breathe so that he could get to the spot that, like, hold my breath so that he could get to the spot that he needed to get to.
Breathing's important.
Yeah, breathing's important. Yeah. So after that's all over, my lung deflates. So I'm in the waiting. So we determined that my lung is deflated, and we're in the recovery area, and we're waiting for the X-ray dude to show up to make sure that my lung really has deflated. We're just assuming. And the blood pressure cuff goes off on my leg. It was on my leg. It goes off on my leg. And all of a sudden, I can't talk. I can't move. I can't breathe. I can't do anything. My husband has his back to me. He's got his laptop. And I'm like shaking the arms of my bed to try to get his attention. And he turns around and looks at me. And he runs over and he grabs a little help button that's attached to your bed. And he starts pushing it a gazillion times.
Yeah.
Nobody comes. And then suddenly the pain goes away. The blood pressure cuff releases. The pain goes away. The x-ray guy rolls in. My doctor shows up. One of the nurses. I'm like, all of a sudden I went from nobody in the room when I'm in pain to everybody in the room and the pain is gone. And they determined with the x-ray that my lung had reinflated. So if you ever have a lung deflate and it reinflates, it doesn't feel good.
Oh, no.
The process of reinflating a lung is extremely painful.
Okay.
So all that's going on. And then, they did the biopsy, they did the test came back, and the little 2-millimeter spot on my lung was definitely breast cancer. So that was 10 years ago. So it's been about 10 years. So 11 years I've been in treatment for over 11 years. Yeah.
So I don't want to be like Captain Obvious here, but so it was breast cancer
in my lung,
but it was in your lung.
Mm-hmm. And that's the definition of metastatic.
No, I understand the metastatic. I know what metastasize and go different places, but it's funny because if it was not, I don't know. It's just so funny that it's just funny how it yeah.
Well, the places that breast cancer will metastasize to are your bones, your lungs, your brain. Those are the 3 most common areas.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's true. Okay, forgive me. That was a dumb thing to say. I guess that was. But I'm not. I'm the new guy here. I've never dealt with breast cancer in my immediate family, so I don't. I'm not a.
Well, that's a really hard thing to wrap your head around for most people. They don't understand what that means.
Yeah.
So you can have lung cancer in your bones. You can have brain cancer in your liver. I mean, the cancer cells just move, and that's what metastasis is.
And I'm familiar with that, but it just, for some reason, I don't know why. You said breast cancer, and then you said lung. I said, wait. It's, I don't know. So it's true. It's true. For those of us that aren't familiar, it is a new, it's like the new guy learning it all over again. So
I currently do not have any cancer in my breasts, but I do have breast cancer in both lungs. Very small, little tiny nodules.
Okay. Well,
I know, it's very strange. Because when you say I have breast cancer in my lungs, people say, "Oh, you have lung cancer." No, I have breast cancer in my lungs.
That is definitely something different. Yeah, you don't hear that every day.
Unless you're in a cancer center with a bunch of other women.
Yeah. So just to throw this out there to the audience that's watching right now, for all of you that are out there, I want to throw this out there. No matter where you're watching, if you're watching on E360, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Apple TV, Roku, wherever you're watching, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And if you're on Facebook and YouTube, super easy to participate here and comment on what's going on here. So if you hear anything that Kandas says that you're like, oh, me, we got to talk. I got to talk to Kandas. Facebook, YouTube, just throw a comment in there. Also, this is a QR code that will send you right to her website. And Kandas, tell us what is going to be on that website when they get there.
So that is my virtual card, like your business card, except mine is virtual.
Nice.
And it has links to everything that I offer. You can check out my blog, you can check out my podcast, some free offers that I have available. Contact me. It's everything that a virtual business card is going to have.
Perfect. I love that. That's even better. That's even better than a website. So yeah, go there and get in touch. Get in touch with Kandas so you can talk to her, ask her questions, anything you want. So
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very approachable.
Yeah. Here she is, right here. See,
I'm a nice chick. People like me.
Yes. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to get in touch with Kandas? Come on. So, all right. So, as someone who your gig is helping people with productivity, like that's like, right. So as somebody who does that, and you can explain, like, definitely tell people about that too, because that's why why we're here. How do you, as being that person, how do you personally manage you like your days, like with all the ups and downs of and unpredictability of breast cancer in your lungs? How does that go?
Well, personally, productivity works out best when you put deadlines on things. So I know that my podcast goes live at 5 a.m. every Tuesday, which means I have to have it ready to go by 5 a.m. every Tuesday. It's a deadline. My cancer treatments are always on Thursdays at 2:30. So I schedule everything in my life around that 2:30 chemo time, right? I just if I leave that day open so it's about scheduling and deadlines, right? If you know that certain things are done on certain days, then those things get done. If you just say, "Oh, I'll get to it when I get to it," it's not going to get done. So that's my number one tip. It's just schedule and block time. But I'm not saying that you have to get a calendar out and you've got to make the little colors and all that stuff. No, just know that this is the deadline to get this done. This is the deadline to get this done. And then give yourself grace if you don't quite get it done. Like have there been times where it's Monday night and I still haven't got the show notes together for the podcast episode that goes live in, just 8 hours? Yes. But I always get it done because I know that it has to be done. But grace is a good thing. Give yourself grace. Yes.
Grace is a beautiful thing. And it's always harder to give yourself grace than anybody else, I think. So in my humble opinion, in my life, I feel like I give everybody, I'm even the person that steps on your foot in the supermarket is easier that you've never met before and never will see again probably in your whole life is easier to give grace to than when you do something and go, "Oh, that was stupid."
But you're the most important person to give grace to.
I know. Yeah.
If you can't give yourself grace, then how can you genuinely give anybody else grace?
I suppose that's true. But I mean, you hear what I'm saying? Like it's true though, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's somebody else's experience. Throw it in the comments. Let me know if that's anybody else's experience. But I feel like, giving my wife grace is easier than giving myself grace, So I don't know. You just kind of beat yourself up sometimes. I know you're not supposed to, and I don't do it often, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can't be the only one.
No, you're not. It is right? A very difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, sure. So, well, I mean, but you're right. The main thing is that grace is important, and you've got to give it every day for sure. So, well, I tell you what, we are at a really good spot to go to a commercial. So we're going to do that and make the sponsors happy for a couple of minutes. And as soon as we come back, we are going to be talking more with Kandas about maybe her top tips for being a successful entrepreneur while navigating maybe a invisible condition like, I don't know, cancer. There's probably some entrepreneurs out there with invisible conditions that are watching. So I think maybe we'll go there. Maybe we'll do something else. I don't know. Let's find out when we come back. But stick around. Don't go anywhere. And we'll see you in a couple of minutes. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor, Dunamis Marriages. And now struggling marriages often lead to a dramatic sense of disconnection from your spouse that can seem suffocating. Even if your marriage is doing pretty well, there is a way for you to thrive no matter what. Dunamis Marriages believes that God designed marriage to be a lifelong, heart-connected journey. And they're here to help you get there at Dunamis Marriages. Located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, their faith-based marriage intensive has an 83% success rate. I'm going to say that again, 83% success rate. Guiding couples through deep emotional healing and lasting transformation. Why is that important? Because most marriage counseling has a less than 10% success rate, leaving broken hearts and marriages in its wake. Led by Dr. Pauline Dillard, who brings over 42 years of marital wisdom, these marriage intensives are different. Typical marriage counseling is more of a once a week for an hour type of thing that can last for years and really end up getting you nowhere. The intensive model that Dr. Pauline uses brings couples together Each session lasts about 2 to 3 hours and is conducted over 5 to 6 sessions. The time that you invest in a marriage intensive will combine biblical truth with proven psychological principles to restore communication, trust, and intimacy. At Dunamis Marriages, they don't just treat symptoms. They equip you with the tools to build a thriving, Christ-centered marriage. If you're ready to break free from frustration and rekindle your relationship God's way, act now. Visit DunamisMarriages.com today. That's DUNAMAS marriages.com. And take that first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling marriage. Build your marriage on a solid foundation and enjoy your spouse like you never thought possible.
Hey everyone, Coach Greg here from Living Empowered TV, where we help women live empowered lives through amazing guests, life hacks, mental, physical, and emotional health. See us on the Achieve Network, 12 o'clock Wednesdays Pacific time on E360 TV. Don't miss out.
And we're back. Oh, Kandas, thank you so much for being here again. And it's a really interesting first segment, which I said something very interesting or possibly a little weird. So if you didn't catch the first segment, go back and watch. You'll get to see me say something kind of silly. But we were talking about grace too, right? Mm-hmm. Give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace.
I feel like I need to do that more. And, when you say stuff and you have foot and mouth disease, then grace comes in really handy. So, and if you don't know what I mean, seriously, go back and watch the first segment. And you'll go, oh, Jeff, what are you thinking? So, all right. First off, let me just do this. I just want to acknowledge if anybody that maybe heard that comment is making comments on Facebook and YouTube right now going, Jeff, come on, man. This is where you want to do it right here. If you have a question about anything we talk about, anything that you heard Kandas say or something you heard me say or whatever, you're like, hey, I got a question that sparked something I want to ask. Do it. Throw a comment in there. And also go to Kandas, Kandas's digital business card, which is right here. Scan the QR code, and you'll have access to all of her stuff, and you can get in touch with her that way too. So, So there we go. All right, now, what? I feel like with something like cancer, there is always got to be some sort of shift in your mindset, in your attitude, in your life, something that helps you to adapt because those of us with invisible conditions, whether it's cancer or bipolar or hydrocephalus or whatever, there's always a shift, right? How did you do that and still be able to continue your business life, your personal life? How did you do that?
So there's two things. One is I was given the book Radical Remission by Kelly Cherner really early on in the whole thing, before it metastasized. Somebody gave me the book, and
nice.
I don't know who gave me the book because it showed up from Amazon.
Cool. That's kind of fun.
And that was something that happened a lot in those first few months.
Yeah.
Things just sort of showed up. I have no idea who sent them. And then, I'd go on to Facebook and say, thank you so much, whoever sent this,
Yeah.
But I think a lot of folks, they just want to give you something and they don't need they don't need to be appreciated for it. The fact that they sent it was enough for them to feel good. So in that book, Radical Remission, it covers a lot of things, but it said that the number one reason people have radical remission is the will to live.
Nice.
And my kid was 9th or 10th grade when I was diagnosed, very young, and she's extremely intelligent. And she's my only kid, and her grandmother both of her grandmothers died just a few years earlier. I had a will to live. I knew that I needed to be there for my daughter. I wanted to be there to watch her graduate from high school. I wanted to be there to watch her graduate from college. I wanted to be there to watch her graduate from grad school. She's done all those things. Now, I want to be there if she ever if she decides to get married. That's up to her. She doesn't need to get married if she doesn't want to, but she decides to get married. I want to be there for that. Whatever she decides to do next in her life, I want to be there to support her. And that's my will to live. So Radical Remission covers that in the book. And it's one of many of the factors that are covered were these people who spontaneously heal themselves from cancer or are spontaneously healed from cancer. One of the many factors. Another one is enough oxygen. Oxygen is a big one. And we don't realize that we aren't breathing deeply enough. Right? It's just breathing a little deeper, taking a minute to breathe and get that oxygen in your body. It's another one. Anyway, that's aside the point. Go ahead.
It's not beside the point because it's important, right? So it's good that you said that. But as on breathing, I just got to throw this out there. If you ever want to, there was a guest that we had. His name's Leland Holgate Sr., and he was amazing. And his whole thing is targeted breath work. So and his whole thing is breathing brought him back from paralysis twice. He's walking now. He was paralyzed, and now he's walking because of targeted breath work. So breathing, you don't discount breathing. Breathing's a big deal. And so it's really cool though. There's so many factors though. People get so overwhelmed sometimes. Like, what do you do first? So, I mean, was that part of yours too? Like, oh my gosh, I'm getting all this stuff from all these different directions. What do I do?
Well, I was kind of lucky. I am very much interested in yoga, and I had been taking yoga classes for probably a decade at that point.
Nice.
So I already knew how to breathe deeply. I just was more conscious that it was not only good for my mind, it was also good for my body. Totally.
And I've been a singer for forever. I started singing in high school and just never stopped. And so I got trained really young that you fill up your lungs like you fill up a glass of water from the bottom up, right? And then you breathe from down here, not from up here. So that was for free, everybody. There you go. Well, that's a little breathing tip.
You also expel your lungs from the bottom up.
Yep.
Empty the bottom first, which really, you have to think about it. You really have to think about it.
Yeah. If you're not used to it, it's tough. It's tricky.
So since we're on the topic of invisible conditions, most women who have given birth at some point are going to want to do pelvic floor therapy.
Okay.
Because incontinence in women who have given birth is very common. Like, more women than admit it, because we as women don't talk about it.
Right. Because nobody wants to talk about that. Yeah.
So I was at pelvic floor therapy, and my therapist was explaining to me about how breathing helps strengthen your pelvic floor. Like, if you don't breathe deep enough, you're not going to strengthen your pelvic floor. And so we are going through this series of exercises, and she's telling me to breathe, and I am doing my yoga breaths.
Yeah.
She's all, you should do about 3 or 4 breaths per hold, because we're doing these activities for pelvic floor strengthening.
Yeah.
And I'm like doing 2 breaths through this whole thing. But it's because I breathe deeply from years of yoga. But it's if you breathe, breathing doesn't just affect your lungs, it affects everything. So taking some breathing courses, going back and watching that interview with the doctor. I'm sorry, I missed his name.
That's okay. He's not a doctor, but Leland Holgate. Yeah.
Leland, going back and watching the interview with Leland, it's really important.
Yeah. You too. You should. I should introduce you to him because he's like that. That stuff is just, his story is so cool, and it's that it was just like literally targeted breathing that helped him was so cool. So
Yeah,
breathing is a
when
big
you're
deal.
breathing, you can imagine that you're breathing into your knee if your knee hurts.
Right?
There's
Yeah.
so many things you can do. So anyway,
Anyway,
that book, Radical. I haven't answered your question yet. The book Radical Remission was one of the things that helped me with mindset, and the other was that I had a very supportive partner in my husband. And my husband and I, we're business partners. We've owned a business together since we got married in April. We launched our business in June. So we've been business partners since the very beginning of our marriage. And so having the flexibility for him to take days off to take me to doctor appointments. And, when I was going through radiation therapy, the first few weeks you can drive yourself. But if anybody's ever been through radiation knows that by the third week, you can't drive yourself. It's just too exhausting. Right. So he was able to take me to radiation. He's just always been he's always been there for me for when I need him. And that was important, but not everybody has a spouse. Not everybody has a life partner. So if you don't, ask your mother, ask your father, find a friend, have somebody who can be that one person. That you only need that one person who can be that support for you. And you do have that one person. You do have a friend. You do have someone. And it's really interesting because sometimes the person who shows up for you when you're sick is the last person that you expect it to be.
Right.
Because some people, that's their superpower.
Yes.
Their superpower is being a support person for someone who needs it. And then when you don't need them anymore, they can step away and go help somebody else. And that's okay with them because that's their personality type.
That's their thing. Yep.
So even if you think there is somebody who can be there for you.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because that adds exactly, and I was going to ask you a question about that too. Follow up with that is so when I started, I've had 6 surgeries since 2013, and 4 of them are brain surgeries, and they just kind of started coming, bam, 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 bam. My wife had no idea what to do. Like, we've known each other forever. We've known each other since we were 12, but she never had to go through these surgeries with me. So 14 years into our marriage, she's like, what is happening? And she started asking around. Like, when I went in for emergency surgery for the first of those 6 surgeries in 2013, she didn't know who to call. She's like, who do I call? So she started calling around, and everybody was like, oh, let me know if you need anything. Let me know if you need anything, which is basically useless. And there was one person that said, I'm on my way. What hospital are you in? I'm coming. Where are you? And that is, like you said, that one person. You always need that one person. But my question would be, who was there for your husband while you were in doing all this stuff? Because that was the important, because I was in the OR. I didn't know any different. I was under, she was the one that was left in the waiting room. That's who needs the person.
And that is the unfortunate thing. The whole story is that there were so many people there for me, but there wasn't anybody there for him. And, a lot of it is he didn't ask.
Well,
but some of it is the system.
Yes, that's true.
Some of it is the system. And when we moved to Michigan, we learned that it didn't have to be the way it was. When we moved to Michigan, we discovered that we both could have had a, therapist.
Yeah.
Like, he could have gone into therapy. I could have gone into therapy if I needed it. I didn't, but if he needed it, he could have.
Yeah.
Some of us just don't.
We don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. You don't. I went to a couple of support meetings and I was like, this is not for me. Like, but nothing like that was offered to him. So but when we moved to Michigan, all of that was available.
Okay.
It was just a give. I mean, the thing that Michigan has going for it is mental health is a priority in the healthcare system. It's a very good healthcare system in this state. In the previous state that we lived in was not a good healthcare system. They didn't care. They cared more about money than they cared about people. Here, I genuinely believe they care about people.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's probably more the norm than the exception is talking. Yeah. So I'm so glad that you found that in Michigan, of all places. Michigan. Who knew?
Oh, it's fantastic here. Yeah, really, really top-notch research. University of Michigan is doing some extraordinary cancer research. It's a really good place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, I want to ask you about something, but I have a feeling we're going to talk about it in the next segment after we take a break in about a minute or two, because I'm sure you want to talk about it for more than 60 seconds. So I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to go to a break, and then you can tell us when we come back. So Gratitude Geek is your podcast, right? And I got that right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. So we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break, because that is, by the way, I love what you named it. Thank you very much. That is very clever. And I love that. And it makes people want to watch it or listen to it just because of the name, it's like, so let's talk about that on the other side of the break. I want to talk about that and all the cool stories that you've been able to tell through that. So everybody stick around. Gratitude Geek is coming up on the other side of the break. We'll see you then.
Hey there. Every time someone comes into your business or website and uses their card to pay, a percentage of that gets folded back into the system. But it can go to Hydro with Hope instead. If you'd like your business to support us rather than feed back into the system, scan the QR code and we'll show you how to do that while saving your business money.
Hey everybody, Craig Tomanini here, founder and CEO of Ask Craig T, and I wanted to do a quick reminder about our podcast every Friday, 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube and on all of our social media platforms, so be sure you tune in. Don't miss all the valuable information we're going to give you about how to scale your business using technology.
Hi, I'm Jake, co-founder and CEO of One Hope. My friends and I started this company in 2007 out of the back of this truck, on a mission to enrich people's lives through wine. Today, we've grown into a state-of-the-art Napa Valley winery that proudly houses a portfolio of award-winning wines which have touched lives through over 40,000 nonprofits at home and around the globe. And it's happening every day. Being rooted in local communities and contributing to initiatives that uplift neighborhoods, celebrate cultures, and promote community. It's what got us here. You see, through every bottle sold, your purchase can make a direct impact on the causes you care about. One Hope's cause of choice has given back over $10 million and counting.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right, everybody, before we bring Kandas back for the last segment, I got to throw this out here. I want to talk to you about Invisible Condition University, or ICU for short. Invisible Condition University empowers you to face whatever invisible condition you or a loved one may be facing by providing a community that listens, that cares, that walks with you no matter what you're going through. You'll be part of a community that meets twice a month. I almost said twice a week. Not twice a week, twice a month, so that you can have a safe place for you and your loved one and your caregiver and your sister, your mom, whoever's helping you with your care, to ask questions, get support, or just find some hope. This is something I wish I would have had 10 years ago, or shall I say my wife and family would have had 10 years ago, when my wife was mostly left out in the cold after we were, 6 surgeries in the last 12 years. Hello? And you leave the hospital and they forget your name. And so this community is to stand in the gap for that. And, we're only $17 a month to be part of it. And I'll give you the first month for free. Go to the QR code. First month's on me. Come to a couple times and just experience the community and you'll stick around. I can't wait to see you there. Can't wait to meet you and help you with whatever you need. If it's not me, might be somebody else on the call in the community. So scan the QR code. Our next time to get together will be June 3rd. So looking forward to seeing you then. And let's bring Kandas back on here and go from there. We go. All right. Pushing buttons. Here we go. All right. Welcome to live TV, everybody. Everything doesn't run as perfectly smooth as everybody says it does. Okay. So podcast. Tell me about it. We've got Gratitude Geek. I love that name. So tell us what it is and how often and where to find it and what do you talk about?
So it's a weekly talk show. It's an interview show. I interview thought leaders who have a message that solopreneurs want to hear about business growth. And I'm really focused on building community with clients and colleagues. It's all about that lasting community, that lasting relationship that you can build with people. People think of business just like you were talking about with the hospital. Once you were out, they forgot who you were. Well, once your customer is done with their purchase, you should never forget who they are. And so my mission is to help people understand how important it is to build those lasting relationships with their clients. So that's the mission of the show. And I started it in January of 2014, 2 months before I was diagnosed with cancer. And I managed to finish out the whole year. So the entire year of 2014, I managed to put out episodes during all that treatment and everything. Nice. And then I couldn't do it anymore. I had to put a pause on the show. And that pause lasted, and it lasted. I think there might have been 50. There might have been more than 50 episodes. So it was more than a year and a half or so. No, 50 episodes is a year. Hello, McFly.
Yeah. Once a week for a year. Yeah. 50,
yeah.
50
So I kept putting it off. And eventually I sold my podcasting equipment because back in 2014, you needed all sorts of equipment to have a podcast.
Right.
I had a sound mixer. I had a really fancy microphone and a great camera. I had all this fancy equipment because back then you needed that. Today, it's so easy. You can get a tool like StreamYard or Riverside, and it's super simple to record. Right. You can there are people who use their phone to record podcasts.
Right? Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah,
I know a guy who has a syndicated radio show, and he records all the episodes on his phone.
What?
I know.
Come on.
And it's a syndicated radio show.
That's insane.
I know. And
I don't know if that's a testament to the industry or a testament to his phone. I'm not I don't know.
I don't know. So when I started the podcast, I was very heavily involved in a greeting card company, and the Gratitude Geek portion of it was promoting sending greeting cards because it was a relationship marketing podcast. Mm-hmm. And relationship marketing in the last 10 years has expanded beyond just sending greeting cards. It's so much more.
Oh yeah.
So I don't call it relationship marketing anymore. I talk about building genuine, lasting relationships with clients, colleagues, and community. Right. I don't even call it relationship marketing anymore because that term has been diluted. Yeah. Right. But so I started the podcast as a way to promote the greeting card company that I was involved with. And I'm still involved with that greeting card company, just not as deeply as I was then.
Sure.
But let me tell you, when you're in a greeting card company and you get sick, you receive hundreds of greeting cards. I got 10 a day for a year. I mean, it was amazing. And opening, imagine this though. I sat there during chemo. So my first bout with chemo was 10 hours. My first chemo session was 10 hours. I was there until 6:00 at night. But after that, it was just a few hours, right? And I would take my greeting cards and I would open them while I was receiving chemo.
Sure.
And read them. It was really nice. Anyway, that's aside. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the podcast. So I put the podcast aside. And then March 2020 comes along and everybody's told to stay home.
Yep.
And I was like, I really, really miss having that podcast. So I had never stopped paying for hosting. So the episodes that I had first put out there was still out there.
Nice.
So I logged into Libsyn, who's my podcast host, and my episodes were still being downloaded 30 to 50 times a month.
What? That's awesome.
And it had been so 2020,
Years.
it'd been 6 years, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, I really need to do this. So the next week, early March of 2020, I relaunched the podcast, and I have put out an episode every week since. I might have missed a couple of holiday weeks, but like Christmas weeks, but but
Sure. Wow.
I'm at episode 270, and I think I started at 60 or something, right? So I haven't stopped. Every week has gone out, and
Amazing.
I have, I started off by just asking people I knew, hey, come be a guest on the show. Let's talk about how gratitude has informed your business, and or I just people we're interested in talking about. Now I get pitched about 500 times a year for 52 for 52 guest spots, right? So I am constantly trying to politely say no, thank you.
Well, that's a really good spot to be in, though. You don't have to take everybody that comes knocking. You can say, wait a second, nope, this is a better fit over here.
But the topic of gratitude is, gratitude is a business podcast where gratitude is the topic. So it's definitely a business podcast.
Yeah.
And it's designed for solopreneurs who are wanting to grow their business through gratitude.
Love it.
And so I interview people that would have a message for them. So it's pretty easy to say no to a lot of guests that just aren't a good fit for that. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky. I have interviewed some of the interviews I've done because I want to talk to them. Like I've interviewed the director of the Vatican Observatory.
Oh, wow.
But you know what? The Vatican Observatory is a business.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is a business. And they are doing a lot of scientific research that we don't know about. I mean, the Catholic Church has been doing scientific research for hundreds of years. Right. And some like the whole reason that we know about genetics is because a monk in a monastery, started researching leaves and plants. That is where genetics came from.
There you go.
From a monk. So the Vatican has contributed very significantly to science over the course of hundreds, probably 12 or 1400 years, right? It's of scientific research, and they are doing it today. Like the Vatican is responsible for research on asteroids that, that is being used by people around the world. So so even today, the science that is happening at the Vatican is just remarkable. And I know that doesn't seem, Vatican science doesn't seem like it matches, but it does. So anyway, I interviewed the director of the Vatican Observatory. That was one of my favorite interviews. I directed the authors of several of my favorite business books.
Nice.
And then recently I realized that I have some clout. I've got 270 episodes under my belt, and I've interviewed some really significant names in business. So I started reaching out to people I want to interview, like my favorite science fiction author.
Ooh.
And the dude that narrates all of his books.
Okay.
So and they say yes, because I have a great pit. I mean, the advantage of having a podcast for as long as I've had is the authority. I come at it from a place of authority. Exactly. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I've interviewed XYZ. I would love to interview you. And I've only ever had one person say no to me.
Wow.
It was Jack Canfield. And the answer was, I'm sorry, Jack's not doing interviews right now.
So it's not really, that doesn't even sound like no. That sounds like no. Later, maybe later.
Yeah, later. So, awesome. It's fun, right?
Well,
I get to talk to amazing people.
Yeah.
And I make sure the conversations bring value to the audience.
Of course.
So a solopreneur, small business owner who's wanting to grow their business through gratitude is going to get benefit by listening to every single episode. I'm very careful about how I curate my guests.
I would hope so. Yeah.
So when I talked to my favorite author, we didn't talk about him. We talked about the business of writing books.
Yeah.
Right. When I talked to the narrator of the books, the voice actor, we were talking about the business of being a voice actor.
Yeah.
It's very business focused.
That's awesome. I love it. And everybody should go listen right now.
Yes.
Go do it. Lots of episodes to choose from.
That's right.
So believe it or not, we are almost done. We are almost out of time. You got about 30 to 60 seconds left. What do you want to leave our audience with to close this out?
So let's talk about gratitude. It can be a very simple thing to add a gratitude practice to your life. It can be as simple as setting a timer on your phone. Mine is set for 10:09. So at 10:09, the alarm goes off and I do 8 things. I think about 3 things I'm grateful for. I take my pills and then I take 4 deep breaths. And that is my moment of gratitude every day. Everybody can do something that simple.
I love that. Simple is good. Don't make it complicated. That was simple. When you said 8, I thought we don't have time for 8. That was so simple. That was amazing. Well, Kandas, thank you so much for being here and for your story and everything that you're doing and the Gratitude Geek podcast, and just you're rocking it. And I'm so glad that we got to do this. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
All right, man. See, I learned something new. Go back to the first segment again. I learned something new every time. And this was no exception. All right. Thank you for being here, everybody. This is amazing. I am so thankful for you and thankful that you are here. If you are watching on any of these platforms, invite your friends. You know, if this is if you watch this and said, man, Kandas was amazing, this is my new favorite episode, share it out, man. Somebody would probably think the same thing. It might be their favorite episode. They just don't know it yet. So like, follow, subscribe, share, all the things on social media. And please join us for our next episode, which will be on Friday, June 3rd. And until then, have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.